Chapter 8, Camp 47. The hour drive felt like days. The roads leading to the camp were all unmarked dirt roads. I hadn't seen anyone in sight for miles. The lack of sleep was catching up to me. It had been almost 24 hours since I'd had any rest. Because of us alternating driving the night before, I was lucky if my body accumulated 5 hours of sleep. The 4 vehicles came to a halt, including our Camaro. Once the road was no more, it led to a dead end of trees in all directions. We were far from the urban population, isolated from the rest of the world. They found a secluded location to hide. A pleasant aroma filled the air, a soft floral scent, an aromatic beauty. The rays of the early sunrise filtered through the forest. It was a sea of deep green plant life. "We walk from here," Alex said. "Camp isn't too far." Mike grabbed both of our bags out of the Camaro. The air smelled earthy and damp from the short morning downpour on the drive here. Rain came as quickly as it went in Florida. As we walked further into the woods on the uneven, damp ground, I could feel the knobby roots under my feet. Green, wet plants tickled my legs with every step. The twigs hanging down from the trees brushed my hair, feeling like spiders crawling on my head. The sounds of birds chirping in the trees echoed through the air. A faint rustling sound came from the small rodents scampering through the green habitat, and off in the distance I could faintly hear people talking. The camp must have been near. We continued through the woodsy forest. Once we reached our destination, I noticed the camp was surrounded by high metal walls, and beautiful white flowers flooded around the bottom of these walls. To the right of the camp's opening was a horizontal sign nailed to the tree. The same white flowers surrounded the trunk. I stepped closer and it came into focus enough for me to read. Camp 47. The letters were blue and the numbers were orange, painted on a flat piece of wood. I was mesmerized by the numbers on the sign. "What is it, Amber?" Mike asked. My thoughts struck me like a lightning bolt. The random times on the clock, the hotel room, and my address, the number 47. My birthday was on the 4th, Mike's on the 7th. The soldiers chasing me in my dreams. It was all coming together now. The dreams and the numbers all led up to this camp. I thought they were nightmares to scare me for the worst to come, but they were clues trying to show me a place of sanctuary. They were premonitions. Mike stood beside me, observing the sign. He tapped into my mind, realizing where my thoughts were. A place to feel safe, a place of security and understanding, but most importantly, a place to be me and to be around others like me. This was where my fear could turn into fearless. Camp 47 was fearlessness. He put his hand around the back of my shoulder and I rested my head on his chest. Evan walked up beside us. "Welcome to Camp 47. This is our safe haven. Alex named it after a vision she had in a dream. She's the only one of us with that ability." Mike tapped into my thoughts. It appears she isn't the only one. Before I could say anything to Evan, Alex snapped, "All right, enough standing around. We have work to do." Alex's words spat out of her mouth so fast as she stormed toward the door opening. She took everything so seriously. The tall metal doors were swung open by 2 young boys who appeared to be about 18 years old. Alex aggressively bolted toward one of the large blue tents. I still thought she wasn't fond of me. The rest of us followed through the opening to see the entire camp enclosed by these tall metal walls. 2 high wooden guarded posts stood at each side of the entrance. These young guards were holding rifles and wearing the same uniforms as Alex and Evan. This camp was protected well. Once we were all inside, they locked the large metal doors behind us. Most of the people inside seemed like children. I felt like the oldest one around. "As you can see, this is a camp for star children, just like you two," Evan said. "We have kids as young as 9 and adults as old as us. Our mission is to locate and train all star children, both crystals and indigos, so they can be safe from demonic groups like Jaspers. We also need to keep order between good and evil. If we didn't recruit these kids, who knows what trouble they would encounter with the gifts they possess." We continued to walk around the camp while he gave us a tour. "This is a place where we can practice our abilities and feel safe. We are a big family who have each other's backs." Everything appeared in order. The tents were spread throughout the camp. They had gardens for food, fire pits for cooking, barrels filled with water. People washed and hung laundry. Kids scampered around while playing with a soccer ball. Joyful conversations drifted between campers. It was a glimpse of happiness, with smiles on all of their faces. I'm just amazed. How has no one found this camp? I asked. That's because of the enchanted datura flowers surrounding the camp, Evan informed. We can see them because we are star children, but to all others, they keep the camp invisible to the naked eye. That explained why all these beautiful flowers were planted around the walls. How is this funded? I asked. Evan hesitated to answer that question. We have an anonymous donor. I wasn't sure I was buying that answer, but it wasn't my business. How many star children are here? Mike asked. As of now, we have 39. As of now, we have 39. We had 56. He looked down at the ground sorrowfully. That broke my heart to hear of the deaths of children. I couldn't imagine losing so many family members. We can't protect them all, not as long as DAPA is still a threat, Evan said. That's about to change, I assured him. Evan looked up with a little smile. Out of the 39 here, 22 are crystals, 16 are indigos, and 1 is an indistal. Indistal? I asked. He had 1 parent indigo and 1 parent crystal, Evan mentioned. We call that indistal. And besides Alex and me, we have 2 other sets of twin flames. They are currently out searching for Jasper with a team. They should be back by dinner. To hear that there were other couples like us was comforting. Knowing we weren't alone, I gave Mike a gentle smile. Over to our right, a group of kids all sat on the ground, Indian style, while a woman possibly in her early 20s appeared to be teaching them. Each kid had a puzzle in his or her hands, but the puzzle was like nothing I had ever seen before. On the other side of the group, some teenagers practicing telekinetic abilities. 50-pound weight was on the ground. One of the boys used his mind to pick up the weight and held it in the air until he exhausted his power. He then took a tube off his belt and drank a clear liquid. I noticed the same tubes on the others' belts. Interesting. Evan stopped walking to explain what they were doing. The children are taught daily, but not just your normal math and writing. As you can see, there is a class currently in session with our crystals. They have 1 minute to separate the puzzle. We find it important for the crystals to be challenged. They are very intelligent problem solvers. Later, they will work on their telepathy abilities to help control what they hear in their thoughts. The indigos practice controlling their telekinetic abilities. As you both know, that ability can cause complications and chaos when not controlled. What's the liquid in the tubes? I asked. He pulled off a tube from his belt and handed it to me. Oh, this? It's just water from the river. When we exhaust our powers, water seems to be the quickest way to regain our energy. That was very clever. I could have used this at the shipyard. I handed him back the tube. One of our crystals came up with that idea. We continued walking. A camp this large must maintain order to operate smoothly. Therefore, everyone has a job. Some help with the garden and cook. Others wash the clothes we wear. We all play a role in this camp and work as a team. It's important to have structure and a routine in place. He then led us over to a section of a camp that had training. A bunch of kids were standing around a floating wooden deck watching a boy and girl spar. They couldn't have been a day over 12. And this is our training center, he said. We began training martial arts at a young age to develop focus, self-discipline, self-control, and self-defense. We also trained the children on proper weapon use and handling the rifles, hand combat knife fighting, and special ability training. The girl made some good hits on the boy. I was intrigued by the style of fighting. I realized her moves were much more intense than what Mike had taught me. Suddenly, she grabbed the boy's arm, flipped him onto the wooden deck, and pinned him down, holding for 3 seconds. She was good. Good work, Abby, the trainer said. Abby jumped up all excited. She then reached her hand down to help the boy up, and they shook hands. The trainer leading the group was a good-looking, heavily built, muscular man in a SAP uniform. If I had to guess, he was my age. His wavy light brown hair flowed just past his ears, and his goatee was roughly 4 inches long, tied with 2 hair ties. With the sun glistening on his head, streaks of natural blonde highlights flowed throughout his hair. I was kind of jealous. As I zoned in closer, something about him seemed familiar, but I had no memory of seeing him before. There's someone I would like you to meet. We were in the same squad together when we both served in the army, Evan said. The man saw us approaching. Danny, can you take over for me? I'll be right back, he whispered to a tall, athletic young lady. Mike and Amber, I'd like you to meet Zeke, one of my closest friends, the only in Distal and our martial arts trainer. He's also our lead in first aid, Evan informed. It's nice to meet you, he said in a husky voice. He shook Mike's hand. Likewise, Mike responded. Zeke reached out to shake my hand, and I noticed he had one brown eye and one blue eye. I never met someone with two different colored eyes, yet the feeling of deja vu was happening. No words were exchanged. We locked eyes, and his smile was enigmatic. But suddenly, he did something unexpected. His eyes shifted from the two colors to flames and ice crystals. I became motionless from the unique glowing of two different colors. I gazed open-mouthed. It was like time stood still and I couldn't stop staring. Once I realized his intentions to read my thoughts, I didn't let him in. Rough words were at the tip of my tongue, but before they could come out, Mike pulled our hands apart and shoved him back. Hey, stay out of her head, Mike shouted. Easy, easy, Zeke said as he put both hands up like he was surrendering. His eyes returned to normal. Zeke, what the hell? Evan snapped at him. Sorry, guys, I'm just checking to make sure they are who they say they are, but don't worry, I saw nothing. She must be some kind of goddess to block me, Zeke said. Now I was raging inside. No one tapped into my thoughts but Mike. I walked up to Zeke and got right into his face, staring back into his eyes as mine filled with warmth. I jumped into his mind. If you ever try to tap into my thoughts again, I'll throw you so far up in the air that when you land, both your legs will be broken. Do I make myself clear? I threatened. But as I tapped into his mind, I saw something I probably shouldn't have. Yeah, I got it. Sorry, Zeke apologized out loud for all to hear as he backed up. He seemed frightened by my words, but to be honest, it kind of frightened me. I was out of my norm. Mike pulled me away from him as my eyes returned to sky blue. I snapped, not sure what came over me. It must be the pregnancy hormones. I placed my right hand on my stomach. The baby sensed fear, but here she couldn't be more than the size of a watermelon seed. Sorry, it's been a rough day, I said. I'm exhausted and need some water. Come with me, Evan insisted. He led me over to a tent while Mike grabbed our bags and followed behind. Zeke returned to training his class with a hardened expression. He discreetly looked my way as I peeked over my shoulder. I kept to myself what I'd seen when I inadvertently invaded his mind. The blue tent was next to the one Alex stormed into, but slightly smaller. Inside were 2 cots and some tables. This is where you guys will stay, Evan said. Mike placed our bags down on the ground beside the cot. On each cot were SAP uniforms. I picked one of them up. I know you guys have clothing, but we thought you'd like to feel a part of the group. I laid the shirt back down. Thank you. On the table beside the cot was a jug of water. Evan poured some into a cup and handed it to me. The water was restoring my energy. My apologies for Zeke's behavior. He means well, Evan insisted. He's just protective of camp. They all heard the stories of you two, but since they never saw you, the campers were beginning to think you were just myths or legends. Believe me, we're no legends, I assured. Evan took his bag off his back and set it on the table. He pulled out another container of water and placed it next to the water jug. I know there's no excuse for his behavior, but sometimes it can be hard for him to trust new people. I'll talk with him. I didn't tell them, but I'd seen a glimpse of what Evan was saying about his trust issues. Zeke was heartbroken by the love of his life. She cheated and then left him for an outsider in the city. No wonder he struggled to trust. I felt like an asshole for snapping at him. Thank you, Evan, for everything, I said. He cracked a smile. My pleasure. Evan placed his bag on his back and left the tent. I set the glass down, just staring at it. This pregnancy had me so scared, terrified of how evil this baby could be. Mike could tell I was concerned with the risk of carrying the baby full term. He held my hand for comfort. Everything will be fine. No, it's not, I grumbled. I have no idea what this baby is capable of doing. It's a demon. I don't want any more. I want it gone. Like an abortion? He questioned. I stared at him in silence. He said it, not me. Let's not jump the gun on this one yet. What other choice do we have? I asked. He pulled me in close. Listen, I know this is scary, but we have to remember something. This baby is half of you. It could choose good, just like Jasper chose evil. If we raise this child together, we can show him or her how to be a star child, how to be the hero and not the villain. I took a slow breath in and let it back out while I processed his thoughts. This man must love me to raise a child that wasn't his and possibly had demonic means. As always, his thoughts brought comfort and easement. Okay, I agreed. I will sit on this for now, but I'm not done talking about it. In the meantime, I should probably apologize to Zeke for being so hostile. Between the lack of sleep and the unmanageable baby, I lost control. My behavior was unacceptable. Do you want me to go with you? Asked Mike. No, I'll be fine. All right, I'll be here if you need me, he assured me and leaned down to kiss me. As I headed over to the training center, all the friendly campers said hi. They seemed to be very welcoming, making it a pleasant place. It was unfortunate for Zeke and me to have a disastrous first encounter. Fingers crossed on the second. I was about halfway there when I heard the sounds of someone chopping wood. The sound got louder and louder. I felt lightheaded. My knees buckled and I grabbed the barrel beside me. I heard the sound of chopping one more time. Then, darkness.